Boys and girls, gather around because today, before we start this video, I wanted to give a quick little lesson. And today's lesson is the definition of the word groupthink, a psychological phenomena where the desire for group cohesion and harmony overrides critical analysis, leading to irrational or dysfunctional decision making. Now, there's no better medium where we see this displayed on a day in, day out basis than in the video game landscape of things. And that brings us to our topic of today's video, because today, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about HighGuard. Now, I, like many people, probably only noticed HighGuard when I was seeing the countless videos of streamers and content creators alike completely dogging on the game, making fun of it from the way the characters look to the way the game feels to the way the game plays to everything in between. Everything about this game was just negative, negative, negative. But as someone who takes pride in making videos about video games on the internet, I decided I would be the bearer of the sword and I would go try out this terrible game and see if the consensus was right. But before we get there, I do want to talk about High Guard and my experience of what this game is and what it was like and what I think about this game moving forward. High Guard is not really a simple game to explain what it is, although I will try my best. It originally launched with a 3v3 mode that quickly added a 5v5 mode of a tactical shooter with base defense, base elimination, while having some capture the flag elements of the game. And that does sound like a lot. The best way for me to describe how this game loop works is for me to just describe to you how the rounds go about from start to finish. So the object of the game is to destroy the enemy base. Pretty simple. And you do that by successfully planting and then defending bombs throughout the base, which then will blow up and destroy the base, securing the victory for you. However, it's a little bit more complicated than that to get to that point. So allow me my best job to explain to you the process of the round, and I will explain the similarities of all the other games along the way. So each round starts with you locked in your base with some sort of defense setup where you can sort of enhance the walls or reinforce the walls and keep them a little bit tighter so people can't break through them. Very much like the pre-lobby or pre-round of Rainbow Six Siege. Now, after the Rainbow Six Siege like round, then your dome is unlocked and you guys can go loot. Now, this is a open map. You can go everywhere, and this is where the fighting starts. Although the fighting will very rarely ever start here, because for the next 2 minutes you are then gathering up your weapons and your in-game currency to buy better weapons and better gear and armor and things like that. After the 2 minute period of that, then there's another 2 minutes where the key that will break into the other person's base is spawning. Now, all players in the game can see where this spawns, and this is typically where the first firefights of the game will start. And once that key spawns, the game turns into a capture the flag sort of thing where you have to capture that key and then bring that key to the enemy's base. And there are key slots throughout the base where once you insert those, then the game completely shifts from there into the next format of the game where one team is sieging into the base and they have a set amount of time and lives to try to destroy those bombs I mentioned earlier to blow up the base, whereas the other team is full defense trying to prevent that from happening. And here's where the outcome of the game either ends or it doesn't. If the attackers do successfully destroy the bombs and win before the timer or their lives run out, then they win the game. But if they don't, then the all players get sent back to their base, the domes get protected again, and we progress into the next round, and we repeat this process over and over until one team is victorious. It really does have this Titanfall, Apex, Rainbow Six, almost maybe like a little Halo, a little Paladins feel to the game. There's a lot of games that you think about when you're playing this game. And I'm being honest, throughout my entire time playing the game so far, I've never really understood why people were negatively affected by this game. Now, I didn't play it directly on the first 2 days it came out, but I did play it on the third day, and I was pleasantly surprised that there were no bugs, there were no crashes, there were no glitches. There was really nothing that went wrong with the game. Even a small, minute detail like the time to kill felt fair and felt good, which is usually something that a lot of these games get wrong right off the start. But everything felt polished. It felt like a good game. But we have to talk about the reality of the situation, and the reality of the landscape of video gaming in 2026 is what I previously said before the year even started was one of my biggest things that I feared is getting worse as time goes on. And that is that the investment in games are becoming smaller and smaller from bigger developers for the gamer consumer. And so then it becomes really quick, and everything about game reviews becomes so knee jerk. We already live in a landscape of video gaming where the first opinion typically is more important than the more thought out one when it comes to newer games. The person who can formulate their opinion quick, whether it be good or bad, will typically get the brunt of the viewership rather than someone who takes the time to thoroughly enjoy it. As someone who reviews games, I can confidently say that is not a assumption. That is just a fact. If I were to rush my videos out quicker, I have a feeling I would get more views off the initial release. If I released this video after just 2 days of playing, then I know that this video would get more views most likely because the game is currently popular. However, I am someone who really does pride myself on giving the gamers my best honest opinion about games, hence the name of the channel. And because of that, I've made the sacrifice deliberately that I don't rush to produce games and I don't rush to produce opinions about games. I really let them simmer. That's why I've stressed for so long that it is important as gamers, as consumers, that we form our opinion. And the fact that we don't like a game doesn't make it a bad game. Your opinion doesn't make it the fact for the rest of the people. If you don't like a game, that doesn't mean it's a bad game. There's no greater example of that, in my opinion, than the game Blueprints. For those of you who don't know, Blueprints is a game that came out last year. It actually was in the running for a lot of Game of the Year awards and all platforms, not just the big Game of the Awards, but a lot of the other groups that do the Game of the Year awards. This was one of the games that was touted as one of the better games. However, I did not like the game at all. In fact, I rank it amongst one of the worst games I played in 2025. But that doesn't mean it's a bad game. And that doesn't mean that it was a game that people shouldn't play. For what it was worth for its player base, it was a positive, good game. For me, I didn't like it, but you can't cloud your opinion as the fact of the game. So when you see your favorite internet personality talking about a game like HighGuard, and they talk about it negatively, they're not talking about the game being bad. They are talking about how they don't have fun. But when the admission of the game for you to play it is $0 and 0 cents, if you're so quick to make that decision, then your audience will be even quicker. Because when you have $0 to invest, when you are not investing anything in the experience, as soon as something goes wrong with the game, you're just not going to like it. Because I haven't even talked about the biggest issue with High Guard, in my opinion, is that it's free to play. Now, I've stressed a million times at this point that I am not a big fan of the format of free to play. I do think it ruins games moving forward. As someone who does not like spending money in general, I do think that free to play games are a negative influence on games themselves. And I think that I would rather spend, even though $70 for a game in 2026 is ridiculous, I would rather spend $70 for a game that I'm willing to invest that money, therefore invest more time into it, than a game that I can play for free. Because if your ticket to get into the club is $0, the second you're not enjoying yourself, you will leave and never return. And that's what happens with the free to play model. We see it so many times again. There are only a couple, I mean, less than 10, maybe even less than 5 examples of truly free to play models that have been successful. Because when you think about other games that have big player bases, when you look at Overwatch, when you look at PUBG, which is like globally a successful game, and you look at Rocket League, these games that are free to play, they were not free to play at launch or for the initial building of their player base. And so I think there's a lot of misunderstanding as to what gamers really want. And I know people will probably disagree with it, but free to play is not a positive thing for game. The last thing I want to say about High Guard specifically is that I'm not someone who only looks at positive things in games. This game does have negative things about it. There's like zero communication ability with your team. There's like zero comms. I have not ran into a single person who had a mic while I've been playing, and I've probably played close to 25 full games between when I started and now. So there are things. I do think the time of game is a little bit bit long. I mean, I do not want to be spending an hour in this game, like game loop. I would rather, shorten that up one way or the other. But I do think the game length is a little too long. My point is that I don't always think of things from positive. I just go into every game not thinking of negative things, and I let the negativity kind of show up, and that's the gauge for if I think a game is good or bad, is if the overwhelming experience is negative. Lastly, we have to talk about HighGuard's future because I don't think it's a very positive or bright one at that. Because I do think that this game has potential, and the developers have said that they're not going to give up on the game, and they added the new game mode, and that seems to be received well. And when you look at the reviews on Steam, they went from overwhelmingly negative to now just mixed. But there are 26,000 reviews of this game. That's a lot of reviews for a game that is less than 2 weeks old. I mean, that's very impressive to see that there were that many people willing to talk about it. Again, it's that groupthink mentality. And I do think that people are coming to their senses about the fact that the game is not as bad as our initial reviewers or streamers or content creators made it out to be. However, we see so many games like HighGuard every single year. When you think back to just the last couple of years, I mean, off the top of my head, we're going to go with the finals. We're going to go with Splitgate. We're going to go with um, um, that frag punk. We're gonna go with all these games that happen. There are a bunch of games out there that just they try the free to play first person shooter where they add different little things to the elements of the game, and they inevitably just die out because like I said before, when your investment is zero, your attention can also be zero. That's my opinion on HighGuard. Is it a great game? No. Will it live the test of time? We don't really know, but is it worth the review bomb and the negativity it got right off the rip? I absolutely don't think so. I think it's really important. And if there's one message my channel can really provide to people, it's that I want people to judge games thoroughly and do it on their own. Don't let the opinions of what other people say about a game dictate if you like a game or don't like a game. Play the games for yourself, enjoy their time or don't enjoy your time, but don't listen to the outside noises that say one thing before you even give it a chance. But that's it for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. We will see you all later. Bye bye.